So you weren't talking recording the sales call that I'm going to be doing.
You can, if they notice that you're recording, what I would say is, or before recording, I would say, and by the way, man, I like to put these on record so that I can shoot it to you afterward, just so that you have the information that I'm giving you in a way that you can rewatch it
Hmm,
whenever, if you prefer. So I frame it up for their benefit, but then I can also take that and do things with it later. Um, Kind of audit myself and listen to how I presented. Highly suggest that, but I always tell the person, hey, look, I'm going to record this for your benefit so you can download it after the fact and have this information on the back side of the call, just as a reference point for if you ever need to jump in on this, or
sure.
jump back. Sound good? It's like, yeah, for sure. It's like, okay, cool, brother. So I'm gonna go ahead and click that on now, and then once I see it running, we'll dive in, and then once it goes green or red in this case for record, I'll say, okay, sweet, man, we're live. So excited to understand more about your position. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the space, what you've done so far, and what you're working on, and what your goals are. And then from there, I can, kind of provide some 2 cents and share my side of the story so far,
For sure.
etc.
And
Let them talk and get them to take off the call so that you can do that as much fact finding as possible at the start.
for sure. Um, so we've had a lot of that conversation already. Um,
Good.
uh, we talked about backstory. He's only been doing it for 6 weeks. Pretty sure he started up with Legendary. And I can ask him about that. Um,
You should.
Say again.
You should ask them about that. If I were you, I'd want to know everything about, like, where I typically start is I identify what their ultimate goal is. Are you looking to do this part time for extra income? Or are you looking to overtake your job and go full time at some point? If so, what's the screw your boss number, right? Like, what's the, okay, I can do this completely dependably, consistently myself, rely upon it, and be good to go. And once you identify that North Star, that leads the rest of the conversation. So if somebody tells me, okay, I want to make 5 grand a month, okay, no worries. All you got to do is make 10 sales, which is, a few per week, and then you're good to go. So if you can only do 3 or 4 deals a week, you're doing, 11, or not 11, 6, 7, 8 grand a month. And then from there, you can really ramp up with things like a website and the fancier things down the line. But for the purposes of getting you to where you're at, depending on if you're in a properly high ticket opportunity in terms of your compensation per sale, that's where you want to be, because then you only need to make a couple of deals per
Right.
week to be on track for that. Whereas the second you go low ticket, now you're doing funnels and ads and other stuff that frankly just costs you more money. And to be honest with you, has a very low chance of returning profit, which is called ROAS, return on ad spend,
Right.
to you, unless you know a lot of the higher level stuff like copywriting, split testing, A/B testing, carousel ads or video ads or static image ads, or the targeting or the campaign bidding optimization, CBO, all the other fancy stuff. And if that makes your head spin, it's because it made my head spin. And that's why I landed where I'm at right now. The clarity that I have on what I'm working with is because I got away from that when I realized that that was something that was going to be down the line for the skill set level I was at, and realistically, the amount of time I had to put into it. So, with your 5 month goal right now, what are you doing to achieve that? What do you think is maybe broken about your approach currently? Or what have you identified as the main thing that you want to try to fix or spend your time and attention or money into solving to get you to the point where you feel like you're cranking toward that 5K a month, brother? And then I'd let them speak. So I'd lay out the logical premise behind going high ticket. You can also layer in and by the way, go for digital products, because what does it cost me to give you a digital product? And then wait. And then they'll say, I don't know. I mean, and then you say nothing, because I build it one time. The second I do, it's good to go. So if you make me a sale on something that I wouldn't have had that sale without you, and it also cost me zero to give it to somebody because it's already built and paid for, what's the most that I could pay you per commission? Wait again. Let them say, I don't know, 90%, 99.99%. Now, most companies aren't going to be willing to do that because they want to also simultaneously value their work and put to develop a product that you were able to make money off of and that they could distribute and still profit from. But at the same time, there are companies that pay 60, 70, 80, even 90% these days on digital e-course offers. And so when you go digital, there's no COGS, COGS, cost of goods sold, right? And so there's no manufacturing labor required. There's no distribution and shipping labor or costs, hard costs like packaging, shelf space, storage, somebody actually physically packaging the product and putting it on a delivery line to a truck, and then the truck driving it, and then the shipping fees associated with the truck driving it, and then whether or not they get a tracking number quick enough and they feel like their product's actually on the way could determine how quickly they become a chargeback risk, if at all. And then perhaps it comes in a condition that they feel, even if you quality checked it, came in a condition that wasn't as marketed, and so they could charge back for that reason. Then it takes time for you to get your product back, even if it isn't in good condition, to be able to understand what happened to that potentially and fix the problem. There's a lot that happens with physical products that you don't want to entangle yourself with if you don't need to. So
And
a big advice point for me, John. Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so and I'm kind of speaking this the exact way I would on the calls, by the way, which is why the recording is valuable. As I'd say, by the way, John, if you can stay in digital, e-course knowledge industry, whatever you want to call it, online information, packaging, etc., all that has been blowing up to hundreds of billions a year in terms of total, net revenues and market activity going on, whether it's colleges going online, realizing in COVID that they don't need their students on site, or people out there that are industry authorities packaging and redistributing their information and experience for a profit, allowing people to make money selling those things to people in need. That is the market that I've spent the most time researching and looking into. And through the partners that I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars with, like my current, partner and consultant with this, that helps me, develop up my venture and learn about how to maintain a strong pipeline and find a good offer and all the things that we're talking about. I've come to find through global top earners like that guy that if you can get behind a high ticket digital offer that pays you a ton, that can pay you a ton because it's high ticket, which means you don't need to make many sales. You just need to make consistent sales at, a couple sales a week to hit your 5K goal. That is infinitely more likely to happen straight up than you going out and building funnels and attempting to distribute to the masses going wide instead of deep. And I always like to say, snipe and don't shotgun your sales. And if you can find a viable platform or vehicle on the path, a good product, a good offer to get behind that checks those boxes, then the only thing between you and that 5K or 10K or 15 or 20K a month is the skill level associated with how well you close and with how well you can book your own appointments. A lot of people go into these offers because they believe that they can copy and paste a funnel, copy and paste an ad, and then make $1 million a month. And it's simply not the case because every single other person in those programs are doing the exact same thing. And so you have to have some unique individual spin. The way that I've been able to figure out what that unique and individual brand angle is for me is by actually talking to people about it and testing the concept and conversation live direct to market, and then going out and building landing pages once I get the proof of concept from real conversations with real prospects, with real customers, and then I go build the rest. It's out of order in my eyes personally. And from whatever professional experience I have via consulting or, actual application, it's my professional experience that if you can start with the customer and then work backward to build the infrastructure, you're going to do a lot better. And I was in Legendary as well. And I'm talking as you, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
I was in Legendary. So I was in Legendary as well. And there's a reason that I'm not currently focal, that's not my current focal point, right? I've pivoted to another style of offer where the delivery of the product is similar, but not exactly the same. But it has a diverse range of package offerings so that I can bypass the issue of budget qualification when I encounter it. And so if somebody can't afford $1,000 or in this case, if somebody can't afford $550, for example, maybe they can do 275. Maybe they can, if not 275, do 110. And if not that, perhaps, hopefully, they can do $30. And so the issue with Legendary and other programs like it that have a $1 trial, for example, and they jump straight from $1 trial to a multi-$1,000 core offer is that there's no action in the middle. And you really, really, really want action in the middle, because when you're booking all of these calls, the biggest barrier that you'll initially run into is developing your pitch. The second biggest barrier that you'll run into is developing enough pipeline of calls to overcome the statistical likelihood of budget qualification being an issue. And so if you have an offer that's only 1200 plus or something like that, I don't know exactly what they're running for that package nowadays, but if you only have an offer at 1200 and the $1 trial jumps straight to that, and there's no chance that maybe they perhaps start with the $1 trial and then they go in for 297, which pays you out 180 or something in the meantime, right? So to have that additional revenue source from varied packages was big for me. That was something lacking in Legendary. But more fundamentally, the fact that Legendary is so funnel focused without the direct organic selling aspect covered, that allows people to get market feedback in real time while making deals and cash flow from actually controlling deals, which you can't do with a funnel. I send you to a funnel, John, and you're going to either like it or hate it right off the gate, or maybe bookmark it and then never see it again, because everything that hits the bookmark tab, as you probably know, doesn't get a lot of revisits, right? So they either close or they don't, and most won't, because you're going wide, like we've talked about. But even if you were to talk with somebody and shoot them to a funnel, you're making a mistake, because you can't trust a funnel to close as well as you can at any time ever, period. Phone calls always are going to win, because when you have somebody on the phone, or even just in Messenger, you can ask specific questions. They can ask specific questions. More importantly, you can't talk to a website. So the quality of a landing page or funnel, as per what Legendary teaches us, is only as good as the intuition of the website to assume that it knows all the objections and all the reasons that somebody would or wouldn't buy. And if it's missing something, then you're down a deal. But if I'm in conversation, somebody can say, oh, well, this all sounds well and good, but what about this? And so I can identify, isolate, and overcome the objections in real time on the phone. So, and from those things, from hearing those objections, from hearing the buying reasons, from hearing why people are excited to move forward, maybe apprehensive, and what overcomes those apprehensions, etc., I can then go out and do something custom that they haven't seen before. But when you have thousands of other affiliates promoting the exact same page, the chances are, in the size of our market, that at some point or another, if they're clicking on all these ads and really diving deep and trying to do the research, they may have ran into it before, and that's not the best thing to have happen. And so perhaps you add a spin where they believe, okay, well, maybe I judged it wrong the first time around, and this guy has a better idea of it than I did at that point. Maybe that happens, and that for sure will across time happen if you take that approach. But what is guaranteed is that if you're closing through calls on the call, they will never have heard that before or had that same call exactly the same as you'll deliver it, especially if you have something unique. So, and now kind of breaking script in a sense, those are some of the key points that I'd break down to people that paint the picture and set up E1U Life, for example, to be looked at as, okay, it has versatile package ranges. It has good pricing options. It has high ticket, but it also has low and medium ticket, which means that I have various cash flow opportunities, especially knowing that not everybody's going to be loaded on these calls. It's also something that's geared very well for direct selling, like was just covered, and not reliant on funnels specifically or solely, especially. And that allows me to get the market reaction, learn from actually talking to people, figure out what about my brand sells well, and then ride off of that for all the other fancy stuff I might do with websites and funnels and email, text follow-up, and lead magnets and ebooks and all of that stuff, and webinars, etc. in the future. Because if I build all of the rest of that stuff off the back of what I've actually been told or heard or witnessed or acknowledged about the sales that I've made directly, then you're good to go. And I feel that by skipping a step, you're robbing yourself of the sales that you could make in the short term by simply going with something that makes more sense for the technical skill level that you're at, knowing that you don't know all you need to know about copywriting. You don't know all you need to know about web design and development or tracking codes or pixels or ads or budget optimization or all those things. You don't know all that you need to know about CRO, conversion rate optimization, and how to audit all those things to make sure that you're actually coming out ahead. For every dollar you put in, you want to get two back, right? And
What's
that's not
CRO?
likely to be
Remind
the
me,
case in your beginning. Go for it.
remind me what CRO is again?
Yeah, CRO is conversion rate optimization. So it's me taking a landing page, duplicating it, changing a single thing. It could be from
Yeah.
a period to a comma somewhere, and then only that thing, because otherwise I can't isolate the improvement variable. And then you run a test, meaning let's say we drive 100 clicks to each page, and variant B with the comma instead of the period in sentence 12 did better than page one. Now, you're very unlikely to test something so minuscule, but the best do, right? Because but that's the thing, is it takes a lot of money to get a funnel profitable, because in order to be excellent at funnels, you have to test so many things, and to test so many things, you have to run a lot of tests, and running tests costs what? Ad spend,
Yeah.
right? And this is the deadly cycle that a lot of people get caught in and then quit because they underestimate either the difficulty of getting the conversion rate to be optimized to the point where you're ROAS positive, return on investment, return on ad spend positive for that specific campaign, or they're overestimating their ability to figure out all the technicalities and things like that with the ads or with the landing page or whatever else, or often a mix of both. Those can be true at the same time. And so that's a really, really, really big trap. But if you get good at what we're doing right now, which of course takes some frustration and time at the start, then all you need to do is execute on a skill set that costs you nothing to execute, nothing to improve, nothing to test other than time, focus, and attempted improvement at experience. That's it. You can message till you die, and it's still smarter than not doing anything at all, because there's a chance that along the route you make another extra $1,000 that week or whatever else, until you get excellent. And now it's like, okay, I can rely on doing an extra 1,000 a week. And then you look at scaling, and then, okay, now I'm doing $2,000-$3,000 a week extra. But with ads, you can't do that. You're not only restrained by the time that you have in the day to put into these campaigns to try to shoot your next shot for $1,000 in ad spend, or $500 or $250 in ad spend. You need data, and data costs money. If you don't have enough data, you can't make intelligent decisions about what to optimize. And so you're restricted by, okay, you've got a job, you get home, you have to somehow build and tweak these ads. You have to overcome ad fatigue by keeping your creative fresh, or else if you just keep running the same ad forever, eventually all the people in the market will be able to see it at some point. And then it gets old. So you need to have multiple types of ads, multiple ads in the same campaign that hits them from different angles, that retargets and all that. And it's very, very complex. It will make your head spin, and you shouldn't feel bad about it making your head spin, because everybody's head spins trying to figure this out. The only guys that don't have their head spinning are the dudes with 50 grand to spend that don't give a shit if the first 10 tries fail, because they've got so much bankroll that they're just going to test until it's right. But the reality is most people are in that situation. So, John, with you looking into Legendary and all these things, keep that in mind, because with something like the product I'm with, E1U Life, for example, 50,000 affiliates later and 5-6 years in business, they figured some shit out. They pay out more than almost anybody in the industry. It's like 85 to 90% commissions. But again, digital product, right? In addition to that, with the versatile package ranges, I know that I can book any call, like whether it's one like this or with a guy that says he's got 2K, and then he'll be pleasantly surprised when I tell him that this is only 550, but gets him a head start, and that he doesn't need the thousands that he thought he needed looking at all these other programs. Or if it's a John Doe guy in a coffee shop with $50 to his name who's going to go broke if he doesn't try to figure something out, and he can't get a job because of criminal record or whatever the hell it might be. But he's a good guy. He's hustling. He's trying to make it happen. And okay, cool. You can get him in for $30, help him make a couple of sales or give him some pointers. Then maybe upgrades, you make another 100. He upgrades, you make another 250. He upgrades, you make another 500. So either which way it swings on a call budget qualification wise, with the circumstantial factors that do pop up in sales, I'm going to have a deal there if my pitch is even half good, for the most part, depending on how lost they are, whether or not they've already got something running. And that's also part of the numbers game. So if you have a good Facebook profile And you like, dude, look, Joe, use my 4P thing all you want. Like, say this in calls because it really helps iron it out. If so long as you have a good product, a good profile, a good process for lead generation, and a good pitch to deliver to those leads, you're good to go. Period. Whereas with funnels or low ticket or legendary or other things like it, you need to have landing pages, you need to have the graphics, you need to have the videos, the VSL, video sales letter, you need to have the copywriting, the text. You have to have the ability to test out all those things against each other and do the split testing, the CRO process right. You need to have the ad, you need to have the creative, you need to have the copy for the ad, you need to have multiple ads because otherwise they fatigue very quickly. And you need to have, more importantly than anything else, a shitload of budget. I think that in your current situation with only X amount of money to work with, the best thing you could possibly do is get behind an offer where once you're behind it, you have the ability to make sales on multiple package levels, and then you can move forward and do other things from there. And maybe, dude, you use the profits you make from a more simplistic and easy to deploy and make money with program like E1U Life with me. If you come in with me and I give you the pointers and you get churning a bit and you start making some sales, then go over to Legendary and try the funnel shit, because at least at that point you're not funding it out of your 9 to 5 paycheck pissing off your wife. You can say, hey honey, I'm investing the things that I'm doing successfully into the things that I think I could do even bigger successes with. And if that's your mindset, then you'll do well. But if you're going solely for Legendary and you drained your bank account to do it, hey, first off, respect, man, you're investing in yourself. But I think that having this mindset is going to be more pragmatic, more practical, more implementable, more applicable for your current situation and what you could really see movement with. Would you agree? Yeah. Okay, well, the thinking for me is this: whether or not you buy with me in the future, I would encourage you to suggest, or I would encourage you to consider rather my suggestion in doing that with me, because I don't think other people are going to be able to give you the exact same, applicable step-by-step segmented process and insight that I can, because I'm working with one of the top guys in this particular product who for over a year and a half was in second place without spending a dollar in ads. And if that sounds like that's the kind of route that appeals more closely to where you're at right now, then dude, get 550 together and ring me back a couple of paychecks later and do your thing with Legendary in the meantime to see if what I'm telling you on this call lines up with the reality of the situation you see unfolding in front of you with your previous investment. Is that fair enough? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, look, man, I don't know exactly what your payment schedule is, so I'm not going to, throw out conjecture. And I'd love for you to just tell me, when is a date where whether or not we did business, you would have 550 to your name to have another follow-up call to see if we can reflect on what's happened in that period of time since we talked to that time that we hop on next with Legendary and with all your other efforts. And if by the end of that call, you continue to see the potential you're seeing now and what I'm talking about versus what you're currently tied up in, I say we roll forward and we get your ass moving on something that's going to have a better speed to market effect with lower cost of entry, with lower operational costs, as in practically zero, other than maybe a CRM every month. And then I help you churn out some deal flow. What do you think?
What's a CRM again? I think I know what it is, but what's it stand for?
Client or customer relationship management system,
Okay.
depending on whether or not it's a B2B or B2C application. So B2B, business to business, that would be client relationship management. And then B2C, business to consumer, business to civilian, business to customer, whatever you want to call it. That's a B2C application. In that case, it'd be customer relationship management system.
Right. Okay. What's your
Something
four? What are the 4Ps again?
Product, profile, process, and pitch. So we started by getting you a product, right? Because everything else kind of built off of that. And we worked on some things with the profile that we could do in advance as we did that, because we already knew the sector we were going for. But for people that don't specifically have a locked in sector in mind yet, finding that product is going to define the branding that from that point forward gets applied. And then once you understand that sector target, you go for the profile so that you look transactable and involved within that space, so that as you go and do outflow and messaging and booking for yourself to then do closing, you see, and you know all this, but this is just running it through like I would on the call. From that point, you're transactable, you're connectable, you're relevant, right? And then from there, a good process is repeatable to get new contacts on a fresh basis consistently, which you're now seeing pour in. in flooding numbers, right? And that's exactly what you want there. So you have no shortage of application success with the process itself in terms of getting the contacts. And then from there, all you need is a good pitch to deliver to those people. And underneath the umbrella of that last P, which is pitch, it's not just the pitch that you say on the phone, it's the pitch that you are passively unfolding in conversation to get on the phone, right? So it's the pitch for the booking, it's the pitch for the product, it's the pitch for the concept, it's the pitch for the relationship, it's the pitch to respond to the initial first message you send, it's the pitch that you're a guy worth talking to and developing rapport with, it's the pitch that as you're speaking to them, they should give you more information rather than less in the fact-finding phase. It's the pitch that you are the type of guy that can help them out when you hop on the phone, and that it won't be a high-pressure sales pitch type of call, but it's going to be something where you can workshop together and share ideas, and that you do in fact have something that you think could benefit them in their current situation. It's the pitch that paying today rather than tomorrow, a week out, or a month out is a better idea, because if time made decisions happen, you would have already made that shit by now. Information makes decisions happen. And so because I'm the guy that knows more about it currently than anybody else in your network, hit me with whatever questions are very obviously holding up your decision process, because I want to see you win. If you say exactly that, it overcomes the time objection almost every single time, because it cuts the bullshit and it shows them, look, dude, there's no money being made as a fence sitter. And if you thinking about shit constantly, an overthinking process to convince yourself into something or out of something, if that did the trick, you'd be where you need to be already. It doesn't. Information and application does. Your execution does. And you already know that, I think. But that being said, you wouldn't have told me you needed some time to quote unquote think about it, as if that's actually the case, unless there's something in mind that frankly has you not swiping your card excited as shit to change your life right here, right now. So let's talk about that thing. Hit me with it. How many things do we have to deal with? Do we have 3 reasons that you're not doing it? 1 reason? What are they? Hit me with it, right? And so then you can identify, isolate, and overcome the objection. So identification is something like what I just said. If time did the thing, then you'd be doing it. So information's the issue. What info do you need? The what info do you need makes them show, okay, it's actually this that I think is the make or break for me right now, or the reason I'm not doing it, or the reason I want to do it, but I can't because X. Once you identify, the second is isolate. Isolation is, okay, I understand. I know that it can't be seen as expensive when you're getting into anything high ticket, but then again, of course, skin in the game required. But that aside, if we fixed the price problem, you'd be moving forward with this, right? Yes. Okay, that's isolation. So you create a yes out of a no, assuming that XYZ is true. Right. And then you overcome, which is solving for XYZ. So it's saying, okay, 550 was steep for where you're currently at because of the program that you jumped in previously. Why is it that you wouldn't do the 110, make a few sales and upgrade later, and also have the added benefit of having some additional momentum with something you now understand is way more likely to make you money sooner rather than later when you're broke and you don't have the ad spend for the other bigger thing yet? Okay, yeah, you're right. It's like, well, how about we do this? You go in for 275, 2 sales later, if you go that route, you're already up to the 550. But for now, that'll get you in the door and able to sell. And with the tips that I can give you, you'll at least be pushing forward. Or if you want to wait and save a little bit of money, you can join in on the 550 and get all those lower levels for free, saving, $400+ in total value without having to buy the 550 separate from the 275. And all you got to tell me is the next time to call you when you're going to have 550 to spare, my man. If you give me a date right now, I'll punch it in, I'll shoot you a calendar invite, I'll call you sharp at that time, and we'll start making some money together and get you well on your way. What do you think? Right? So that's some of the general primary breakdowns that I give across calls that really make the difference. I highly suggest, frankly, Joe, if you feel like you didn't catch all of that, I would rewatch the recording aspect of this like right now before you hop on with this guy, because I tailored a lot of that, if you couldn't tell, for specifically a guy in Legendary that didn't necessarily have the money right now for the top package.
Well, I totally agree with that. And actually, what I'm actually instead thinking of doing, and I don't feel bad about doing it, because I don't feel bad canceling for an emergency, is canceling for an emergency. for this exact reason, so that I can review everything that you just said, script it out, get a much more thorough sampling of exactly what some of the actual reasoning as to why he should be doing this, which I really cannot verbalize to him off the cuff today.
Yep.
There's no way I could do it.
Don't reschedule. Just say, hey, bro, traffic's fucked. Give me 30 minutes to get home and set up or whatever else. In that case, if it's a key sales call, it's one of your first calls. You want to knock it out of the park and build pipeline. The reason I say right now is you have 20 minutes if you want to, and a majority of what I just talked about was within the last 20-minute frame. Whereas at the start we were talking about some other fundamental stuff. You can rewatch that, but in terms of properly prepping it, if you push back a half hour with the guy, he's going to feel like you are at least doing everything you can to show up at the time that you said. I don't get a lot of guys that come back after I tell them, hey, man, I know that it's our first call, but let's reschedule. That happens sometimes. But what you want to preserve more than anything else in these conversations is momentum of relationship.
Sure.
So it's up to you. But I mean, I would jump off, start rewatching that, and shoot me questions as you do, and then I'll reply in voice messages so it's quicker to intake. And then maybe you could still take this call at 6:30 and you're going to look a lot better and have a better relationship with the guy that you just met and doesn't want to see any flakiness exist at all in the universe between you two, right? Like at the start, they're more sensitive than later. Like once you have relationships and you've had a call or two, then rebooking isn't really a problem because they understand your value fully. But when they don't fully understand your value, that's a risky place to be, you know?
Sure. Sure.
But I would just chop it up with him and try to reiterate some of these things. Don't worry about, enunciating tonality perfectly and all the things that maybe I would do in a more assertive tone more successfully with the confidence that I have. That'll come with repetition, right?
Sure.
Your first few calls are supposed to be a shit show where you at least have a convo, you keep it casual, and you keep it even more casual than would close best, actually, because you want them to talk as much as possible so that you hear from the market what is actually on their mind, because that builds so much confidence when you hop off and address the things you actually heard from a potential customer in your next call. That's where my confidence comes from. Is I've had hundreds of calls where I took in that data, took notes in terms of theoretical objections that you and I spitball about on these calls, which I know to be real, but you don't feel through experience to be real yet because it hasn't smacked you in the face currently, right? But once you actually hear it out of the mouth of a prospect, it's like, shit, okay, if I can solve that problem, I'll get that many more deals in the long run. So it's up to you. You can spend this period of time in the next 15 minutes before your call. With me, you could push them back 30 minutes and then hop off and rewatch the recording, which might be smart. But that's genuinely how I start my calls, how I kind of lead into it. Some of the very, very biggest selling points and conversation points. The last one I throw in there is ClickBank, like describing how to find the offer. But I didn't go into that with this guy's example because he already has the legendary thing. So I spent my time comparing those two rather than talking about offer selection, because that's a different type of attack for a different type of prospect situation. So, and we'll cover all those, but dude, I would jump off and just skip through. You don't need to listen to every single word that I said. You just need to listen to enough of it to feel like you got a feel for it. Don't script this call out. Just hop on, have a good convo with him, show that you're grateful for the time and that you're excited to talk to him and you understand that you're both relatively new. Don't fake it till you make it. Be honest and say, look, man, I've got some serious momentum churning here, but I'm learning from a top guy. And I know that you're in a program with some top guys also, and I want to bounce stuff off of you, but I have some thoughts that I think could really change the game for you. Right.
Sure.
And then just go and free flow it. You will get more at this stage from free flowing it and just hearing what works and what doesn't from experience than you will scripting it out and putting it in a box. I promise.
Well,
so
no, I know, and I mean, I'm pretty good off the cuff in a lot of ways. Like piecing it all together, it's like puzzle pieces, and you've got a lot of them, and you're saying a lot of them, and I have some of them, and so those are ones I can say off the cuff in the same way, and some of I don't have. They're great ideas, and the logic of it all, how it puts all together, and what is more successful, is those are things that I'm still, like you say, wrapping my head around them within reason. And so what was I? Where was I? Where's that thing? What was I just typing? Oh yeah, there. So what was I gonna ask you? What are the different? So just tell me real quick. I can get on to the website right now, but oh boy. This is going to be interesting. It'll be good. I'm excited. I'm not too nervous. He seems like a really, really nice guy. So
I'm impressed that you booked a call, 2 calls, in fact, so quickly since we last talked, man. That's a really good indication that you're doing a lot right and that you speak to people well. And really, we're just talking about tweaks here to get it across a higher conversion line.
yeah, there's a couple of others that have said, I'll talk with you. I'll be happy to hear what you've got to say about all this. They're kind of in the same boat as this guy. I'm not really I'm not in a place to really get into anything else, to buy anything else. Where your pitch, talking about how you can get in, you can go in low ticket and work your way upwards by making some sales through organic marketing, the way that we're talking about doing it. Marketing.
Critical note for that. When I say that, I always follow up by saying, however, if you want to hold off slightly until you get a paycheck through or a cut through from something else, and then jump in with me a week or 2 out when you've got the full 550, you're going to save extra money. So that way, you want to prioritize lining up a larger receivable, because not many people have what it takes to be successful in general, let alone in this complicated space. And so the likelihood that all of these people go off and make a shitload of sales on a $30 package and then come back and upgrade and all that is low without substantial guidance. And so what you want to do is set them up as best you possibly can, as ethically as possible out the gate with a more deadly package because of that, because then when they have more skin in the game, they're more likely to get a result out of it. And I take that very seriously. And so I always try to line up a receivable for the 550 first. And if they want to get going right now and they like the idea of momentum a little bit more so, then okay, go to 275. Okay, still out of reach a little bit, no problem, brother. Hey man, you got 110? If not, that's cool. But I'm working down the ladder here with you. And I'll say that. I'm working down the ladder of opportunity right now with you. If you're really trying to pull trigger at this very moment, make a payment, get signed up. I'll help you with all of that at the end here if that's the case and get you rolling. But if not, I highly suggest doing what I did, which was I waited off a week or so until I could talk to some people and get a paycheck through and get some help. And then I jumped in on this. And then, I got the consultant and whatnot, and I started working through all those things. And then if you share it from a personal experience like that, that helps a lot too. And I would rather have 5 people that say they want to do the 550 next week than 2 guys that do 275 right now and then like a couple of maybes or something like that. I'd rather line up the bigger deals because it's that overlap of pipeline and retention of relationship where you start making 10, 20 grand a month off something like this.
Right. No surprise. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Well, a lot of stuff. What I'm going to do, I'll do what you say. I'll wait for, the call to come. I'll see if I'll put it off. If he can, then I can. And, go through some.
Take it, fumble through it, and learn, man. Record it so that you can look back and troubleshoot what you need to fix later. But try to retain as much of that upfront respect for time mutually as possible by jumping on at 6:30 if you can. But I would hang up like now, take notes on what you intend to try and test. Don't write too much because if it sounds like you're reading off of a script or a notepad, you're screwed. And just have an organic conversation with some basic bullet points in front of you and try to just riff off the top and fill in the blanks with what you understand from what we've trained on. And then go back through this recording first after that call, and then go back through your call recordings so that you have the comparison between how you did in your head fresh. You have the comparison between what I'm laying out right now fresh. And then you listen to the call again with both of that fresh in your mind. And then you try to analyze how you could have improved it. That's the best thing that I would do right now if I were you, and I'd jump on it.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. That's what I'm going to do. Let's just say I'll be in touch. We'll see what happens tonight. Might be something, might be nothing, obviously, but, um,
What it is data. Forget the sale. If the sale comes, beautiful. I mean, that'd be a positive surprise. But we already know the guy's in a budgetly difficult situation, right? A budget restrained situation. So use this as a learning experience to not pitch aggressively, but pitch thoroughly and see what lands and what doesn't. And that's going to carry into your next call with the guy who perhaps has that money. And like this is a sandbox moment and treat it like such.
right. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll give it a go and I'll be in touch with you. I don't know, like, if we'll see what happens when. I might be in touch with you later tonight. I might be able to, continue going through a thing or so tonight, depending what happens, obviously. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Shoot me a message after the call with how it went. Let's lock in tomorrow at 6 to keep the train rolling with this exact same stuff. I know it's a Monday, so you have to do 6. But take notes. I mean, you got 8 minutes, so I would hop off and just kind of get your bullet points straight in front of you and your intent for the call ironed out in your head for a few, meditate on it, do what you got to do, and then jump in motivated and just be happy. Don't be over the top. Talk to him like a human being in a coffee shop. Think
Right.
about it like that. But
Yeah.
when it comes down to concepts, back it with logic to the best of your ability. And whatever you feel you couldn't go as in depth as you hoped you could have on, take a note of that. And that's what we're going to cover in more depth tomorrow, and that might be helped by going back through those recordings, brother. And then I'll shoot back. So like, just shoot me some voice messages after your call of how it went. I'll reply the same shortly thereafter after my next call, and then we'll kind of ping pong a little bit, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna hop off and I'll get back to you. Okay. Thanks for all the help. Hopefully,
Awesome.
we'll see what happens. It should be fun.
Yeah, you got it, brother. This is a big learning moment. So just try to enjoy it and see it for what it is. And no pressure, right? Because it's not necessarily likely to be a
Yeah,
sale.
right.
But again, sandbox moment. You're in the template zone. Screw around and see what works. It gets a good reaction and try to impress him a bit. Not through flaunting bullshit that's not true, but through working through stuff he hasn't necessarily heard broken down so well before, and just kind of work on that. But I'll talk to you soon and let you go, brother.
All right, sounds good. I'll be in touch with you. I'll get back to you.
Perfect. Cheers. Let
Thanks
me
a
know.
lot. Thanks a lot. Talk to you in a bit.